Hi everyone, I'm Peter Molloy, Executive Chairman of Firebrick Pharma, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about our company, Firebrick Pharma. I'll be doing a short presentation on the company, and then we'll be taking questions at the end. So if you have any questions you would like to submit, please send them in. Alternatively, we've also received some questions already, so I'll be addressing those up front. Thank you. Let's get going. Firebrick's a company that's developed a nasal spray that kills viruses called Nasodine Nasal Spray. And in the nose, where the viruses are lurking and cause infection and all the symptoms that we recognize as the symptoms of the common cold, Nasodine can eliminate those viruses and provide relief from overall cold severity, and most importantly, can have a very significant positive impact on quality of life. That is, the impact that the cold has on your ability to think and sleep and eat and exercise and work. So these are the main benefits of Nasodine. Nasodine is what we would call a first-in-class nasal spray medicine, and it once it's approved, will be the first nasal spray medicine that actually targets the viral cause of upper respiratory infections like the common cold. These are infections that can be caused by many different types of viruses. There are more than 200 different viruses that can cause colds. And when colds are around, such as in the winter season, they can get into the nose through various means, including breathing in micro droplets laden with virus into the nose, and they cause the infections that we recognize as the common cold. Nasodine is a product that is intended to be used 4 times a day for 5 days, and in clinical trials has been shown to be effective in reducing the overall severity of the common cold. Why do we want to deal with the common cold? After all, it's very mild and very common. It turns out that it is the most prevalent ailment of humanity. There are 17 billion colds worldwide, 65 million a year in Australia alone. It's a disease that affects 7 billion people worldwide and causes more disability than most other types of infectious diseases. It's also one of the largest over-the-counter medication categories. It's worth $500 million in Australia and billions of dollars worldwide. So it is an important disease to be targeting, as Firebrick is. So how good is Nasodine in addressing the common cold? Well, first of all, in a phase 3 clinical trial, Nasodine had a positive impact on cold symptoms. It also had an even more prominent impact on what we call quality of life. That is, things like your ability to think, to sleep, to work, to exercise. In many ways, these are important, more important than the local symptoms that you experience with the cold. And the benefits of the product were amplified, magnified in people who were actually shown to have a confirmed viral infection by PCR, and those who used it within the first 24 hours. So these are very strong indicators that the product is effective. Once it's on the market as a first-in-class nasal spray that actually targets the viral cause of the cold, we think it's going to have a very positive impact. Market research that we've done with doctors and consumers indicates that they're very receptive to it. Consumers, 89% of consumers were positive about Nasodine, and many of them were excited to hear about it and keen to try it. And even 78% of doctors were very keen to hear about it. And why I say even is because it would be an over-the-counter medicine, a product that's sold without prescription, and yet doctors were very keen to hear about it. And one of the reasons is that it would give them a product that actually targets the viral cause of colds, and a reason not to prescribe antibiotics, which, as we all know, don't work with viral infections. So we're looking forward to seeing this product on the market, and I think it's going to receive a very positive response. Internationally, there's a very large pharmaceutical opportunity. The OTC pharmaceutical market is valued at $170 billion worldwide and is growing fairly significantly. In Australia, the cough and cold market is one of the largest segments, and over the last year has grown 57%. It's a very good time to be entering the market both in Australia and internationally. We will be marketing the product ourselves in Australia once it's approved, but internationally we'll be looking for marketing partners to assist us with the marketing of Nasodine. What we can look forward to in the coming year for Firebrick is really a crystallization of everything we've been working towards since we started the company 11 years ago, and since we listed on the ASX 1 year ago. And those key outcomes will include approval of Nasodine in Australia, which could come as early as later in 2023 as a result of an appeal that we're currently conducting with the Administrative Appeals Tribunal. And that could allow that tribunal to overturn TGA's decision not to currently approve Nasodine. We think it should be approved based on the existing data. And on that basis, we could see Nasodine on the market as early as the end of this year or early next year. So it could be on the shelves by then. If not, we have a backup plan, which is a second phase 3 trial, which will be completed this year. And we will get a readout on that trial in the second half of this year. And that trial is very important because it's a large-scale phase 3 confirmatory trial of Nasodine as a treatment for the common cold. It's taken everything we've learnt in the first phase 3 trial and packaged it into a new trial that we think will be successful. That trial will read out in the second half of this year, and that'll be a very important event for the company. We also have a phase 2 trial that we're conducting in South Africa, and that trial will close out in the next couple of months, and we will have the results of that at around about the same time as we have the readout on the phase 3 trial. So that'll be another big event for us. We may also be able to file by the end of this year our approval applications in Europe, New Zealand, Philippines, and South Africa. And then later on down the track, we will be seeking approval in the US. I hope that in that regard, we'll have a binding term sheet or a licensing deal in place by the end of this year or early next year with a pharmaceutical partner. The phase 3 trial, as I said, that we're conducting this year and will read out in the second half of the year is crucially important. First of all, what it's going to do is to tell us that this product really works as a treatment for the common cold. Now, we firmly believe that, but we need to convince the regulatory authorities that that's the case, and that's what this trial will be about. It will facilitate approval in Australia if we don't get it through the AAT appeal. It will allow us to file for approval in Europe and in South Africa, New Zealand, and Philippines through existing licensees, and to close a global licensing deal. So it's a very important event for the company, and this is happening this year. Finally, I'd like to finish up with a slide that talks about who we are and what we are. Firebrick is not really a biotech firm. When people think of biotech firms, they think of companies that are developing early stage drugs and they're looking for pharmaceutical partners and they want to monetize their technology in the form of a licensing deal with a pharmaceutical partner. Our goal is to actually become a profitable pharmaceutical company that's Australian based and globally facing. We will market the product in Australia ourselves, and we'll be looking for partners internationally. That makes us a little bit different. It also changes our risk profile substantially. We're a lower risk operation because we're on the cusp of approval in Australia. We'll be filing for approval in other countries in the next 12 months, whereas for typical drug development biotechs, they're higher risk and they have long development pathways and they have binary risks at each stage in clinical development. And finally, it's a very different type of product to most of the biotech companies. Most of the biotech companies are looking at high-value prescription drugs. We're looking at a product that's going to sell for probably $25 in Australia, $20 in the US, and is going to be a high-volume product. So that's quite a different type of product. Thank you. All right, with that short presentation, I'd like to open it up for questions. And we have one here. Is it a cure for the common cold? Not a cure, but it's the first medicine that actually targets the viral cause of colds. All existing cold drugs actually just target symptoms, and they give you some symptomatic relief. Whereas with Nasodine, if it's used early after symptom onset, the clinical data suggests that you can experience a very substantial reduction, not only in symptoms, but improvement in quality of life. It's going to be very important for doctors in Australia to have access to this product, as well as consumers. Any other questions? Well, this is a question I've been asked many times. Does it work against COVID-19? And the reality is that in lab tests, it certainly wipes out the virus in less than 60 seconds. But COVID-19 is a complex clinical condition, and you can't necessarily jump from laboratory results to clinical treatment. We are conducting, as I indicated in the presentation, a phase 2 study in South Africa to assess whether Nasodine can have a role in the management of COVID-19, and that trial is going to read out in the next 6 months. So watch this space. COVID-19 won't be the last pandemic, and I'm sure that having available a nasal spray that kills all virus is going to be very valuable. In the meantime, our focus is on the common cold. As I said, a condition with 17 billion cases and affecting 7 billion people worldwide. So not an insubstantial opportunity. When will it be on pharmacy shelves in Australia? Well, that depends on when we can secure TGA approval. Right now, we're in the middle of an AAT appeal process with TGA that could see Nasodine hopefully approved later this year. So if that's successful, then you could be buying Nasodine before the start of the cold season next year. The potential for approval of Nasodine later this year is a huge inflection for the company that I think all investors will be keen to see. Why has the share price gone down since the IPO? The whole Australian biotech sector is down close to 50% since the end of 2021. There's been a major retraction in the biotech sector internationally and in Australia. We're in the fortunate position that we are not trading below our IPO price. We listed at an IPO price of 20 cents, and we closed today at 23 cents. So we're still a little bit above our IPO price, which is important. I think the important thing to think about is that despite the retraction in the overall market, you can buy Firebrick shares today at close to the IPO price of a year ago, and yet the company has progressed enormously since then, and we're on the cusp of reading out on all of these major catalysts in the next 6 to 12 months. So it's going to be an exciting year ahead. Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your attention this afternoon.